so very, very much for joining us. Tonight we have a great panel. Panels are always so much fun, so I'm really looking forward to getting to hear all of you speaking together. But we are getting to celebrate the beautiful thing of the cozy mystery this evening. And we have our fearless moderator, Elena Taylor, who I'm going to pass the reins off to in just a second. But some housewarming rules, as everybody knows, or a lot of people know at this point. To the right section, we have Ye Old Chat. That is where you can share all of your book loving of the authors and everything. And then down below, you'll see where it says ask a question. And as that would imply, that is indeed where you can ask a question. I think questions are kind of the most fun part of events because the authors are at your mercy, so you get to ask them whatever you would like. So make sure that you take advantage of that. And if you have a question, click that and ask a question. And then also, the best way to support a cozy and to keep on getting even more cozies is to indeed buy said cozy. So if you would like to purchase any of the author's books tonight, I strongly encourage you to click the link down below that says purchase books. And I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to Elena. And have an amazing event, guys. I will see you at the end. And she's going to introduce you to all of our awesome authors. We're not just going to be like, and here they are. She's going to introduce you to everyone. Bye, guys.
Thank you, Constance. Yay. We're so glad to be here. And I'll tell you, Mysterious Galaxy, San Diego's my hometown, one of my favorite bookstores. So thrilled to be here with this wonderful panel. And I actually am going to just sort of start out with conversations with the authors here. I want you to kind of have a chance to get to know them. And we are going to talk about their books, but I also want you to get a sense of who they are as people. So I'm going to start off with a little question about where they are. I'm out here in the Pacific Northwest. Winter is the perfect time for cozies. They keep saying we're going to get snow, which really makes me want to stay home and read new books. So I'm going to ask all our panelists, where are you logging in from and what's the weather doing for you? Mary Angela, why don't we start with you?
Hi, everybody. I am in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And our winters can be pretty harsh here, but it's been pretty mild this year. Actually, we've had one blizzard, not a whole bunch of snow, and it's probably in the teens right now. So overall, not too bad.
Nice. Catherine Bruns, why don't you tell us where you're from and what the weather's doing?
Hi, everybody. I am in upstate New York. And we actually had a storm last night, about 6 inches here. And temperature's about maybe 20 degrees. It's hasn't been that bad temperature-wise, because this time in January, some years it's been like below 15 here. But they are saying that for Friday morning, we're going to get like a minus 25 wind chill here. So not looking forward to that. I don't know why I still live in cold. I hate the cold.
Very cold. Y'all should follow those two on Facebook for really great winter pictures on their Facebook. Esme Addison, let's hear from you. Where are you logging in from, and what's the weather doing there?
I'm outside of Raleigh, North Carolina, and currently it's about 40 degrees and wet. It's been, I sound like a weather person.
Summer weather.
I just went outside to give my puppy his last break for the night, and it's raining, but it's been cold, and today was kind of nice. So, but I think we may get some snow later in the week. That's what we'll see.
It always feels like perfect book reading weather when there's snow out on the ground. It's totally legit to not actually go outside. Look at it all from the window. Last but not least, Lynn Cahoon, we'd love to hear where you are coming in from and what's the weather doing there.
Well, I am sending my snow to Esme. So I'm from St. Louis, the St. Louis area. I'm actually from Idaho, so Oregon is like my neighbor. Pacific Northwest is where I spent most of my time, but now I live in Illinois, the greater St. Louis area. So we just got our first good snow. So we probably have about a half an inch, enough for the dogs to play in. So
yeah. Nice. All right. Now that we know where everybody's coming in from, and they're all in that winter weather and working on books, let's talk about their latest releases. Catherine Bruns, Cannoli Be Murder, is your latest release. I love that title, Cannoli. Who doesn't love cannoli, right? Can only be murder. What should readers know about Tessa Esposito, and how does food play a role in your culinary mystery?
Okay. Actually, It Can Only Be Murder is the second book in the series. The first one was Penne Dreadful, and Tessa Esposito is a chef, and she's from upstate New York. Go figure, right? And
Where it's snowy.
yes. Yes, the first book takes place in the fall. The second book takes place in the spring. So we managed to skip over winter and those two. The third one, winter's in there. Anyway, for Tessa, she's a fabulous Italian chef, and it's always been her dream to own her own restaurant. And in the first book, Tessa's husband has just died, and she's a new widow. And if that isn't enough, she finds out that it actually wasn't just an accident. He was murdered. So that leads her on the investigation. She ends up going to work in this kind of like dumpy pizzeria that was one of his favorite places to go. He hung out with guys there. And she takes a job there to find out who actually murdered him. And for her, food is just, it's a passion, not just eating, it's just making it. And it helps her cope with stress. It's how she relieves herself of stress in her life by cooking. And she certainly has a lot of stress to deal with. So it's really, the first three books are like her journeying through and trying to find herself, basically, in these books. And food is a big part of that. So
nice. Love little recipes and food with my cozies, definitely.
Oh yes, plenty of those.
Mary Angela, your latest release is Open for Murder, about Zoe Jones, owner of the Happy Camper gift shop. The novel is set in Spirit Canyon, South Dakota, and I love the descriptions that you've got in this book about location. Tell us about the town and the region, and why does Zoe love it so much?
Mm-hmm. So Open for Murder takes place in Spirit Canyon. It is in the Black Hills of South Dakota, but it's a fictional town. It's based on loosely, I shouldn't even say based on, it's inspired by Spearfish Canyon, South Dakota, which is a beautiful area in the Black Hills. And Zoe owns the Happy Camper gift shop. And it's kind of a neat little shop. It's a tourist shop, so you might find postcards, all those sort of fun touristy things. But it's eclectic too. She sells books and records and things like that. And so it's really fun. The town itself is a little eerie, I think, though, besides just being fun. There are a lot of myths and legends. And then just set in the national forest, the Black Hills National Forest, I think gives it a little element of danger. And then, of course, the danger from Max Harrington, her forest ranger love interest, too, is a lot of fun. So I like the region. It's important to Zoe, I think, because she grew up in the foster system. And so for her, place is really important. It sort of represents home for her, even though she's moved around a lot in her youth. So.
Excellent. And who doesn't love a sexy ranger, right? Sexy forest ranger. It doesn't get any better than that.
I read Mary's book, and I just loved it when she called him Smokey the Bear. That was so good.
I love it. Lynn Cahoon, you have a brand new series, the Kitchen Witch series, and it starts with, the first book is One Poison Pie, which I believe launched on January 26th, right? To have the date right. It's just come out, brand new. Tell us about the series. And also, I've noticed that you have 2 novellas that are part of that Kitchen Witch world. Can you tell us a little bit about the whole package there, the series and the novellas?
Yeah. One Poison Pie is set in Magic Springs, Idaho. So you've got the sawtooth, so you've got the beautiful Idaho mountains and streams and all of that. But it's also a place where witches are accepted. The townspeople who aren't magical just kind of think they're they go to like the Masons or the club, but they really do have a coven. Mia and her grandmother are not part of that coven though, and her grandmother is a kitchen witch, and Mia, she's trying to train Mia in the art. So Mia's more worried about setting up her business. So we started out, when I sold the series, I sold 3 books and 3 novellas. And I've written all 3 of the novellas, so they'll be coming out through this year, 2021 now. But what we wanted to do was kind of give people a nice entry point into the series where they could check it out and see if they liked the series, if they liked Mia and her crazy friends. So that's why you have the novellas in there. I also have done novellas for 2 of my other series. And I really like the way you can tell a short story and really focus on a different part of their lives. One that you may not be, a story that you may not be able to tell if it was a full book. So we started out with the chili, and I can never get this right. Chili, I type it, but I can't say it. Chili Cauldron Curse. And it was where she came up to visit, and she was helping her grandmother set up a food bank for the area. So it has a lot of meaning for me because I worked in the health and welfare area for a long time. So supporting people and helping them get back on their feet is really important to me. So hopefully it shows in those books.
Wonderful. And I have to say, I have recently started getting into reading these novellas that authors have coming out that coincide with their series, and I love it. I just love it. I've been sort of gobbling them up in the last several months. So I'm thrilled to see that you're doing that too, Lynn. Esme Addison, A Spell for Trouble launched in May, and A Hex for Danger launches in July. Congratulations on that. The Enchanted Bay mystery series is based on a Polish myth of mermaids. Why did you decide to write about mermaids?
Well, initially I wanted to do something fresh. Everything has already been done, and it's really hard to find something different. I originally wanted to do a baking. I wanted to set in a Polish bakery and have kitchen witches. But at the time, I was told culinary cozies were dead, so I was like, fine.
No.
2 or 3 years ago. Not the case. Now they're like, give me more culinary.
Yeah.
So I kind of mined my in-laws who are Polish, their history and culture. I started reading just the background, just if I couldn't find something interesting, something different to do. I like stories that have a kind of a mythology behind it, a lot of history. And I've always been partial to magical worlds. So when I stumbled upon this myth, and I had never heard of it, I've heard of the Little Mermaid and different things like that. And I was just really like enchanted by this story. And I just thought, I'm going to somehow make this story about this family of women, Polish American women, and I'm going to have them descended from mermaids. And initially, I didn't have any witches. There was no witchcraft. There was nothing. But the publisher said, we don't know how to break out a cozy with mermaids, so make them witches. So had to figure that out. But I figured that if these women were genetically descended from mermaids, but had lost the ability to shift from mer to human, and they still had command of the water and different things like that, they would probably be perceived as water witches in their community. So they know who they are, but some people in town think that they're water witches. So that's kind of how I worked in that element of witchcraft.
Wonderful. I love that. I love the sea. I grew up in San Diego and spent a lot of time in and on and around the ocean. And so any kind of mermaid myth, mermaid story always speaks to me. I would love to hear what all of you are reading, right? And we all love dogs. We're used to having animals show up in the middle of these events, so that is okay.
Lady, tell us about your book. I know it's not a cozy, but it's a traditional.
It's meant to mystery, right?
Yeah, thank you for asking. All We Buried is my most recent book, and it's much more of a police procedural, traditional. It is set in a small town in Washington State. You go figure, right? Not too dissimilar from where I live. And it's about a sheriff who comes home thinking she's going to be interim, taking over for her sick father, but he dies. And now she's faced with whether or not to stay and become the sheriff of this tiny town or go back to Los Angeles where she'd been building her life. So then she has to face her first homicide investigation and realize how challenging it is to be kind of a one-woman band. She has not a lot of help in her tiny little town, has to kind of stand on her own 2 feet. So that's my latest novel. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Sounds awesome. I can't wait to read
it. Well, speaking of other books, I would love to hear what you guys are reading. So what's everybody reading? Lynn, let's start with you. What are you reading right now? Do you have time to read with all the series you write?
I do. I make time to read. I used to listen to audiobooks when I drove into work every day because I still have a day job too. But I'm only driving in twice a week now, thank God. But thank you, COVID. That's one big out of this whole thing. But I am currently reading, and you're going to think I'm crazy, but I'm currently reading The Stand.
Yes, I love that you're reading The Stand.
Yeah, and it's really scary and crazy, and I am 350 pages in because it's the unabridged.
So it's like 1,000 pages long, right?
We are still introducing characters. They haven't even started the journey.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, this is why you don't do that.
I love that. I love that. Esme, what are you reading right now?
I am reading, so I like Bree Baker's The Seaside Cafe Mysteries. So I've got this one.
Nice.
This came out, and I'm actually reading a book, and then I'm listening to Bailey Kate's Magical Bakery series, the latest book in that one, in that series, which is like book 7 or 8, like witches and wedding cake or something like that.
I'm sensing a theme, food, witches. Yeah. I love that. Catherine, what are you reading right now?
Well, like Lynn, I have a day job too, and I've been working from home since March. So that saves me a 2-hour commute every day because I don't find a lot of time to read. I know it's terrible to say that, and I love to read, but I don't get too much time. But now I am actually reading Gina Limena's Pretty Guilty Woman, which about 4 women who all confess to a murder at a wedding. So it kind of is like in reverse instead of forward. It's the murder's already happened and they've already confessed, and then it's backtracking through there, and each woman tells her story, and it's a very good read. And I'm actually listening to, it's about as far from cozy as you can come. I'm listening to Blacktop Wasteland.
Oh, yeah.
How is it?
Fabulous.
It's on my list.
Very intense.
Definitely not a cozy.
Right.
Definitely not cozy.
Yeah.
But I just want to say all the hype about it is true. It's just fantastic.
Yeah.
So,
Mary, what are you reading?
I am listening to The Sauvignon Secret by Ellen Crosby. And
love that series.
oh my gosh, it is so wonderful to listen. I really, until COVID, I didn't listen to many books, but I listened to a lot of short stories on podcasts, and I started that book on audio, and I just love it because it's set in Virginia wine country, and she has this drawl, and I just feel like I'm going to start talking like that when I unplug my earbuds. It's just wonderful, and she has this French grandfather, and you have those accents, and it's wonderful. So I'm listening to that, and then I'm reading a book. It's a historical mystery called The Cater Street Hangman by Anne Perry, and it's really good. both of them are just excellent reads. Yeah.
Well, I'm like you, Mary. I read sort of multiple things at a time. I'm actually finishing up Blacktop Wasteland, so I've got that going. But I also started reading a book called The Diviners, which is a YA novel, and it's historical fantasy. It's fascinating. It's set in 1920s New York, and it's got a lot of supernatural aspects, and it's written in omniscient voice. I mean, it's just a really crazy book, and I'm sort of head over heels in love with it. So we'll see how that goes. So, but like you, Mary, I kind of I read sort of like I'll have a cozier book going, and then I'll have something that's out of the genre, and I review. Yeah. So I have a lot of different things. So, but those are the two that I've got going. Okay, I have some more individual questions for you guys. Lynn, you write multiple cozy series, and you also write romance under the name Lynn Collins. How do you keep all that straight? Like, how do you keep genre straight and what book you're working on and characters? Is it easy to slip in and out? Do you have to stay very segmented? Tell us a little bit about how you juggle all of that.
Well, the Collins name was when I first started writing, I was writing romance, and I was publishing it all under Cahoon. But when I got my publisher, they asked me to stop that because I was diluting my brand. Mm-hmm. So I have been moving my older books from Cahoon into Collins. And so then just adding one or two there. So I'm not actively writing romance at this moment, which helps because I am really actively writing cozies.
Multiple series.
Multiple series. I have 6 or 7, 8. I have 8 books I have to write this year. I get to write this year. I'm ahead of my deadlines. I'm finishing up the last Farm to Fork book. Unless it does really well. So if you love Farm to Fork, get out there and buy it because
I love that series.
All right. Yeah, and at this point, I have this last book, and I don't have another book contract for it. So I'm tying a few things up, and so that's really sad. But for me, it's really important for me to focus on the world. And because I've separated them out so much, 2 of them are in Idaho, but they're in 2 different parts of Idaho. One's in a farming community area, and one's in the mountains, and you get that nice mountainy feel. It's like going and visiting friends. Yeah. And I hate saying that because it makes me sound a little bit crazy, but
we all know, right?
You sit down and you say, okay, well, I need to write a Jill book. So what's going on with that Jackie, and what's, how are her and Harold doing? And, so I write a lot about the relationship, and then the murder falls into that because if these things are happening, how do I set the murder into that process?
Right.
So it's kind of like sitting down at the table with, your family.
Right. And I don't think you're crazy at all. My first series, which is a funny, very humorous Private Eye series. And I sat down the other day and pulled out because I'm going to finish book 4. And it was like just slipping into a familiar swimming pool. And I knew those waters. And it felt good to be kind of back with characters that I'd missed working on these other projects. So you're not crazy, or I am too, one or the other, right?
It's a writer thing.
Yeah.
One of the interesting things is I will have it so deeply in my mind, I'll go, I have said that. I have described his car, his truck, or I know that he drives a Hummer, and I know all these things about him, and then I'll go back through the other books, and I've never said it.
Right.
So it's just
so in your mind that it's there.
Is in me that I remember this, but it wasn't on the canon. So.
And Catherine, you're very similar. I'm not sure there was another sound there. I apologize if I spoke over anybody. Catherine, you're very similar in that you are an incredibly prolific writer, and you write in multiple series. What drew you to having these different worlds to write in and not just focus on one? What made you want to have multiple series?
I don't know, impatience, probably procrastinating for 20 years before I actually wrote my first book. I have 4 series right now. I have the Cookies and Chance series, which is also culinary, and my 10th and 11th book in those series coming out this year.
Mhm.
I have the Italian Chef, which the 3rd book is coming out in October.
Mhm.
And I have a series about a real estate agent, which I may continue at some point. I may get back the rights on that and self-publish a 4th book at some point. And I also write in a series for my publisher, my other publisher, Gemma Holiday. It's the Aloha Lagoon series, which there's about 6 or 7 authors in the series, and we each have our own characters. And it takes place in Hawaii at a resort. And I don't know if I'm going to be writing any more of those. So right now it's 2 active series. I'm just drawn to different types of lead characters, I think,
Mhm.
and enjoy working with different possibilities, because I'll be writing one series and I'll think, oh, gee, this could happen to so-and-so
Right.
in my other series.
Right.
And like I said, it's a lot of it's impatient because I'm a very impatient writer. So it's like I can't wait to get done with it and then move on to the next one sometime.
Mhm.
But it works. I mean, I think that I know a lot of authors have a Bible of sorts to keep their multiple series going. I'm not organized enough to do that. I mean, I always say I'm going to do it, but it never seems to happen.
But yet it's still working for
great
you.
idea. It's a
You
great
don't have
idea. No, I do not have one, but it's a great idea.
We all think you
All
should
there.
try it. Let us know. Let us know how it goes. Esme, you said not culinary, but there's a lot of Polish food in your mystery. So can you tell us about some of the dishes and why it was important to you to have that food in your series?
Right. So my mother-in-law spent a lot of time cooking for us, and I think one of the ways that she showed her love and her hospitality was to feed and overfeed us. Everything made from scratch, endless slaving over the stove, knowing we were coming, but it was just such an endearing thing that she would do for us. And I don't know, I wanted to kind of instill that sense of love and hospitality in the story. So the matriarch of the family is Aunt Lydia, and she does a lot of cooking, and she wants to make sure, her family's taken care of in many ways, but she's always constantly feeding them. And that's just something that I personally experienced that I thought was very authentic, and I wanted to put in the series. And so it's everything that I put in there is things that I've had.
Nice.
So, just lots of different cookies and cakes and, soups. Like when I was fortunate enough because they lived in New Jersey for a while. They're actually back in Poland. They lived in New Jersey for a while, and we lived in Long Island for a year. At that time, my husband was in the military. And so just for a year, we were there, and they were in New Jersey, in Linden, and we were able to visit them, which is the only time that ever happened. And then when I was pregnant, and I craved the soup that she made. It's creamy potatoes and dill pickle.
Oh, wow.
But it is so delicious. And she would make this big kettle for me, like this big, and I would just eat it up. It was so good. That was one of my cravings. But she would just cook for me and all of us. And so it was really important for me to put that in the book.
Lovely. And there's just nothing cozier than food. I mean, it does. It makes you feel loved, have people cooking for you, right? It's just a wonderful thing. Mary, you shifted from the Professor Prather academic cozy series to the Happy Camper mystery series. And those are 2 very kind of specific subgenres within cozies. To have academic cozy is a thing, right? It is a subgenre to talk about an academic cozy. So what started you in the academic series, and then why did you make the jump into something new?
I taught English and humanities.
Everybody froze. There we go. She's back. All right. Go ahead, Mary.
Okay. I taught English and humanities for over 10 years for a couple of different colleges here in South Dakota. And so I probably would say that it was my time as a teacher that inspired me. But When I think about Professor Prather and her as a character and who she is, I think the series was inspired probably more by my own time at college.
Mm-hmm.
I was the first and only of 5 kids to graduate from college in my family. So it was really an interesting world for me when I went to college. It was just, it was wonderful and unexpected and just, it was great. And so I think that, she was kind of an amalgam of a lot of the teachers who inspired me and inspired my writing and just my love of that world. And so I think that was, and then of course teaching, you kept getting new material and, for books and things like that. So I'm sure it did inspire me in some ways, my teaching as well. But most of it probably came from my time at college. And I really do consider myself like a lifetime learner. I love learning about new subjects. And so I think as a writer, it was a great jump to make into a different series sooner rather than later, just so that you can experience all the different, ways to describe things and people and new emotions and characters and things like that. And so, and it was wonderful because then I wasn't at my day job anymore. I wasn't in the classroom. I wasn't writing about the classroom. It was like it opened up a whole new door where I could do whatever I wanted. So it was good.
I love that. And I have often thought about writing a thriller, having been an academic, where I get to kill the dean. Like, I was on faculty. I got a dean I'd like to kill. And so I'm like, I want to write that thriller. I'm going to write that thriller.
Yes.
So I've been watching. I have not seen any questions pop up. I apologize if anybody has written in and I haven't seen it, but we would love to respond to questions from the audience. So I'm going to monitor that if you want to go ahead and ask a question. But I will keep asking questions as we go, but feel free to be popping one of those into the ask a question. Or if I'm doing something wrong, throw it into chat, but I'm not seeing any yet. So do let me know. But meanwhile, I have a question for all of you, which is if your main character or your series had a theme song, what would it be? And Catherine, I want to hear from you, girl. You got a theme song?
For Tessa, I think it would, there's a few that come to mind, but I think it would probably have to be That's Life, which I think everybody associates with Frank Sinatra. But I actually associated it with, this is a little bit of a story here. Growing up, my mother used to play her records all the time. She was a singer in nightclubs in New York City before she met my father. And she was a very good singer. Actually, her voice, I think, sounded like Barbara Streisand's.
Oh, wow.
I will tell you that it's not carried on to the next generation. So, but I remember growing up hearing the song, and she had a version by Shirley Bassey, a record by Shirley Bassey who sang it. And there was that one line that's stuck in my mind. It says, I'll pick myself up and get back in the race. And that's kind of like the theme for her through the first 3 books in the series, just finding herself again and moving on and starting to live again. So.
I love that. Anybody else have a theme song for their character? And then I have a question from the audience, but we'll finish up on the theme song. Yeah, Lynn, go for it.
So Mia's just getting out of a bad relationship. So I had never thought of this before, but I think she would have I Will Survive by Gloria Gaynor. I will survive. So she can dance to it.
I love it. Esme, what do you got?
I wish that the song I could find something that's a little more contemporary, but when you asked that question, the first thing I thought was Sister Sledge, We Are Family.
Oh, yes. I love that song.
Yeah, so the main character, Alex, she's coming from Manhattan. Her father just died. Her mother died when she was little, and she's reconnecting with her family. So a running theme in the story is her reconnecting with her aunt and cousins and just realizing how important they are to her and how this connection that she had with them was missing from her life. And it's really what drives her to solve mysteries because unfortunately, her family members are always involved with murders. Don't know how that happens. it helps me to drive her, right? but yeah, I thought that would be a good one.
I love it. I love it. I think that's great. Mary, you got a theme song?
I don't know if I have a. These are wonderful. Honestly, I love all your guys' answers. I don't know if mine's that great. I don't know. It's not a theme, but I was just line editing book 2, Midnight Spells Murder, and she has her ringtone as Katrina and the Waves walking on sunshine. Not a theme, but it's kind of fun. She's big in, her gift shop has a lot of kind of motivational gifts and uplifting merchandise, and so that's her ringtone. So kind of fun anyway.
I think that's it. I think that's the theme. You already put it into the story.
I agree. I think that's it, and that's perfect.
Yeah.
Sheila's wondering how you keep your series fresh, and I think that's a great question, and it can be true whether it's the second book in the series or the 10th book in the series, right? About like how do you not sort of repeat things that have already happened? Catherine and Lynn, you two nodded immediately. Let's start with you two. Catherine, do you want to take that first?
Oh, okay. Well, I guess that one would apply probably more to my cookie series since I'm in the middle of writing book 11 for that. I think you just have to continue to make the characters grow. And if you don't, I think the series could grow stagnant that way. So just work on that character development throughout and show how they process, like in real life, really. So.
Yeah, I agree. Lynn, do you want to add to that?
For me, I think for me it would be the Tourist Trap series, and I will be getting into writing a scene. I'll think I've written this somewhere else, and so I'll have to step back and say, was it really written somewhere else? Was it did this happen somewhere? And really think about it. But I really enjoy taking them to a different place. And unfortunately, everyone in every one of my series is getting married for some reason. And so there might be a lot of divorces or babies. So some of these are going to go, but yeah, there's a lot of weddings going on. I'm writing a lot of weddings. I guess I'm feeling romantic. So
I love it. Esme and Mary, do you two want to comment on that question?
So I have just put the second book to bed, and so maybe I don't have this issue as much as the other writers, but I do feel challenged to create a mystery where you can't figure it out. And that's hard. I read a lot of cozy mysteries, and unfortunately I can almost always figure it out just because I think I read so much. So I really want to stump my reader. And so I don't know. I think you just have to, I know I have mentioned this before. I know Catherine knows this, but when I write, I don't know who the villain is. So I trick myself, and I'll think I know who it is, and then I'll switch it up at the end in case I put in, little breadcrumbs. And so I don't know who it is, but so it's hard, but it's like a fun challenge. Just one of the reasons I love mysteries is you're almost like you're the detective, and you have to not only create this mystery, but you have to solve the mystery as well. So I don't know. But.
I love that. Mary, anything you want to add?
I agree. I like writing mysteries because it does challenge that analytical part of your brain as well as your creative part of your brain. So I like that. But I too don't have a long-running series that maybe the other authors do, but I think just challenging the characters, presenting them with new challenges, putting them in new situations keeps it fresh.
Yeah, and I would add in, as I was thinking about this with the fourth one of my Eddie Shue series, of that in addition to the characters developing, but the relationships. So the characters which have been alongside them or who have been there, how do those relationships develop and change as well? And so you can show over the arc of that series, or to keep it feeling fresh, that there's a new dynamic with an old relationship, and how that is developing. I think that, goes along with what Catherine was saying about that the characters have to change, but they also are changing within the dynamics of the world that they're in. And those long-term characters that are their sidekicks or their mom. If you're writing Eddie Shu's mysteries, it's Shava and Eddie. We have a question about what.
They're great, by the way.
Oh,
Elena.
thank you.
I love her.
Thank you. I'm excited to kind of be back with Eddie, so we'll see how book 4 goes. I've missed her, so it's nice to be back visiting with her.
Well, I think too, if one of the things that my screen is flipping, so hopefully it's not doing it on the.
Nope, you look fine.
Okay, good. I think one of the things too is what I do with Tourist Trap is some of the characters age out of the story. So they have to leave and then new characters come in. And so that helps because it helps that relationship building.
Right. Something, a new dynamic.
What happens to them? They just...
So you just make them kill somebody and then they're out of the way.
She had to go to the bigger city and she found somebody else. And so now I have Deke. So I love Deke.
Well, I know that our audience would love to know what you're working on now, whether it's a new book in an old series or a new series. So we'd love to hear from all of you. Esme, let's start with you. What are you working on? We know you put book 2 to bed, but what comes next?
Right. Well, I already have ideas for book 3. I have multiple things. I work on a lot. Like I probably have 4 different manuscripts in progress in different places. But I have another series that is on submission now that will hopefully be picked up. And then I have another book that I wrote, like I'm 90,000 words in. And the other one is being pitched on proposal. But this other book, I've almost finished it. And it's not a cozy per se. It's in a small town, but it's not like quite as cozy. And so, I have these 2 other mystery ideas. We'll see.
Nice.
But I hope to be with all these other ladies with like 18 different
series going. I'm on book 25.
Yes. It's so fun. You should join us.
I'm trying.
Mary, what are you working on now?
I am editing book 3 in the Happy Camper series, so I have a solid draft of that, and then I am also finishing up a historical mystery, which is new for me and fun, and so it's been nice because you have your 2 worlds again, like we've all been talking about, different worlds and visiting those, and so it's been fun.
Lynn, what are you working on? I am finishing up a Farm to Fork story. So that'll be a full series. And then I'm moving into this third the third Kitchen Witch book. So that is going to be a wedding one too. It's not my main characters, but I just love the idea of a witchcraft wedding and all of the fun little things I can do with the mints and and the food and the ceremony issues. And yeah, I think it's going to be fun.
I love that. Before we go to Catherine, Mary, we had a question. Is your historical mystery a cozy as well?
No, yeah, I just saw that in the comments. No, it's not. It's just a traditional historical mystery. I mean, I think it's like a cozy in that it is an amateur sleuth, and so and there's no gratuitous sex or violence, and so I think it's very cozy like. But it's just a historical. It takes place in Victorian London.
Excellent. Catherine, what are you working on now?
I'm currently working on Cookie's book number 11, which is to be a Halloween cozy. I'm waiting for edits on book 10. And I'm working on I guess I might call it a domestic thriller. Working on a synopsis for that in the first 3 chapters. Hopefully, I have to confess I hate synopsis. Okay, so I'm sure I'm not the only one. So I'm have that almost in order, and then I'm going back to writing on the book. I've kind of been going back and forth, like a chapter here, then the synopsis, then back to the second. But I'm really excited because I've always wanted to write like a thriller suspense novel type book. And I do have another series that's on submission, but things are moving slow. I haven't heard anything yet. So
it's been a strange time. Yeah, it's been. I think things are gonna start to even out a little bit here. Okay, well, I have I'm working on a couple different projects as well. There's Constance, including a standalone, and I'm working on a book on writing. I teach writing workshops every week online, and I've been teaching for 25 years. And I finally decided I'm writing my book on how to be a writer, and I'm having a great time. Yeah, I love it. So I haven't. My agent doesn't know that's in the pipeline. I probably need to let her know that at some point, but I have other fiction going too. So, but she's used to me kind of throwing things out to her, like, I wrote a picture book, and she's like, okay, let's see what happens. Constance, I didn't see questions popping up. Did I miss anything down below?
You didn't miss
anything. Okay, great. I just want to make sure we got everybody's questions. Okay, fantastic. I will hand back over to you.
Well, awesome. I want to say, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I would like to say thank you so much to all of the authors for joining us tonight. And also I know we did not have questions, but there was a lot of love that was in the comment section. So thank you very much for all of the book love, which I think is very appropriate because when I think of cozies, it just makes me want to like smile and feel like all the happy, good feelings. So thank you guys for talking about your stories with us and for sharing what you have coming out as well. You guys are all very, very busy, so that's awesome. There's lots of things that everyone can be excited for. And don't forget, if you would like to purchase these books, there is the ye old purchase book button down below. So yes, everyone knew the point.
Yep.
So if you look down below, that is where you can purchase all of the authors' books. Thank you so much for attending tonight, and we will see you all at the next one.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Support Mysterious Galaxy. If you don't buy our books, buy somebody's books from this wonderful bookstore.
Buy a book.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.